Hey everyone, I'm here with my good buddy Taylor Morris. He's here to help us out and talk about estate planning and homesteads. So let me give a brief introduction.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Beau. I'm an estate planning and probate attorney with Morris Estate Planning Attorneys, and we practice solely in the areas of estate planning and probate law. And I think something that people think about a lot with real estate is, putting your home in a trust. They talk about homesteads. A lot of questions about what those things mean and what they should do. And so a good topic just to know about if you're buying a home, owning a home, as far as how to take title and what those things mean. Generally, a homestead in Nevada is a way to protect your primary residence from a creditor if they tried to sue you and take your home.
How much is something that cost? What's that process?
Yeah, so the process is you record a homestead title document on your home, kind of like a deed. You record it through the recorder's office. Okay. And then once that's recorded on your primary residence, then it's attached to your property. So if somebody sued you and tried to go to court and take your home and try and make you foreclose on it or sell it, then that homestead will prevent them from doing so. But Nevada, in every state, they have rules on how much you can exempt if somebody came after you, how much the homestead covers.
So if you have a $10 million home, it's not going to cover that whole thing.
Okay. And so under Nevada's current laws, the equity that's protected in the homestead is $605,000 of equity.
And that's way above our median price point here in Nevada in general. So for most people, that's going to cover their primary residence.
Yeah, and so what would happen if it came down to the worst case scenario? That means you've been sued, someone's taking you to court, they've gotten a court order or a judge to give them a judgment to foreclose on your home. What would happen is if the homestead's in place, your home would be valued, and then they would determine how much equity is in your home minus any mortgage that's still there, because the mortgage is also attached to the property still, so they're first in line. But let's say worst case scenario happens and they make you sell your home, they'll value it, and if the net equity in your home doesn't exceed $605,000, then you get to keep your home.
Okay. So how much does something that cost?
Yeah, so to record a homestead, it's pretty simple thing by itself. We usually don't even do them by themselves. They're usually part of doing a trust or an estate plan, but if you just had to do a homestead by yourself, you probably wouldn't need to pay any more than $150, $200 to repair one. And there will be a recording fee that you have to pay to record it.
Just a government fee.
Or a little bit more, depending on who records it. There might be a little processing fee, but out the door between a legal fee to prepare and record one, have you sign it, record it, you're looking out the door probably $200, $300.
Okay, so not bad to protect your primary residence in case something were to happen, and you could at least have your home still if they got everything else from you.
Yeah, and even if the amount of the judgment exceeded your equity, at least you get to keep that first $605,000 before,
to restart and get another house. Is there any hoops you have to jump through? Say you're going to sell that property to buy another primary residence, or if you're going to keep that property as a rental income or rental producing property as you get a new primary residence. Is there any hoops you have to jump through there? How's that work?
Yeah, so if you're gonna kind of buy a new home as your primary residence, that's what you should homestead.
Okay.
So if you're not living there for a certain length of time before something happens, it's probably not gonna work and protect you as much over the years. So if it's gonna be a rental property, you'll want to just record a homestead on your new primary residence and just do a new homestead document.
All right, so you don't have to do much for the old property. You just got to homestead your new property and kind of let them know that you've moved and this is now your primary residence.
And that's what you're going to homestead. That's correct.
Okay, so that's a good topic. I get a lot of questions about homesteading because, every time someone buys a new house, you get all that junk mail, the marketing, and you get at least 5 or 6 homestead pieces of documents basically scaring the crap out of you that if you don't, you're going to lose your house one day.
I tell clients all the time, as soon as we record a deed or a homestead on any document on your home, just look for the mail. It's probably all junk mail, just throw it away.
It's usually pink or red or some spooky color that they're trying to get their $50, $75 to do. So homesteads are pretty simple, pretty generic. Now, a little more complex topic that I know I'm passionate about, you're passionate about, our clients, is getting their home into a trust of some sort. Yeah. What's the difference between a homestead and then putting their house into a trust for asset protection and long-term stability?
Sure. Yeah, very good question. A lot of that depends on the type of trust that a person would create. Most trusts that we prepare and people sign are called the revocable trust.
Okay.
You hear the term living trust, family trust, revocable trust. Those are all synonymous terms. So that's a trust that somebody can create to, plan for the administration of their property when they die or if they get sick. And the goal is to make it a smooth transition if that happens, so that somebody who they appoint can take over, administer their property, get it to where it needs to go. But a revocable trust, sometimes people have the concept that it's an asset protection vehicle, but it's really not.
Okay.
So a revocable trust doesn't protect anybody from any type of liability, from any type of creditor whatsoever. I always tell clients it's pretty much an extension of you personally in that regard.
Okay.
But it serves other purposes that are very important, but not to protect you from a lawsuit or a creditor that might come after you.
And that's what we were talking about a little bit earlier, that we're still going to want to do the homestead.
Exactly.
If you do the revocable type trust, correct?
Correct. They're kind of two independent, unrelated things. So if you're going to create a trust, which I recommend that most people do, we would prepare a deed to transfer the deed title of their home into their trust.
Okay.
Then we also would, in conjunction with that, prepare and record a homestead to protect it since the trust won't.
Now, a question I get sometimes is when you record that deed, obviously it's going to be in the name of the trust.
Correct.
If you have a mortgage on the property, which is in your name, how does that process work?
Yeah, so there's federal laws that pretty much protect you from your mortgage being called or violated. If you're just putting it into a revocable trust that you own, that you control, that's really not changing the substance of how it's owned. It's just changing it for administrative purposes if you get sick or you pass away.
Because you're still the administrator of that
Correct.
Trust. You're still owning the property,
Exactly.
just through a different vehicle.
Through a different vehicle or a different name or a different title. But it's not changing how it's really owned as far as you owning it versus the trust. It's pretty much the same thing in that regard. So you'll be fine with your mortgage if you record it into a revocable trust. You're the trustee, you own the property still. It's not going to cause any problems. So I always tell clients just to keep paying your mortgage.
Okay. Don't have to notify them, don't have to make a big deal about it. Just keep on doing what you're doing.
Do what you're doing.
How much is something that costs? Obviously, that's something you have to go to an attorney for. The homestead you can kind of do on your own if you really wanted to, but you shouldn't be setting up a trust just on some online service to make sure that nothing gets messed up, right?
That's my recommendation as an attorney, of course. We prepare a trust in conjunction with like an overall estate plan. So it's usually not by itself. Usually there's a trust, there's a will, there's healthcare, power of attorney documents, financial power of attorney documents. There's a series of documents that you usually will sign and execute aside from just having the trust in place. But overall, for a lot of straightforward people, if they have estates that aren't anything complicated, pretty straightforward, they own a home, they have some bank accounts, maybe have a small business, have some investments, and we do kind of a complete estate plan for them. That usually starts around $2,000 for most people, and it can go up from there depending on the assets they own and how much work we're doing. But that's kind of a good starting point. Yeah,
I always tell my wife, I have the big green binder. If anything ever happens to me, just take the big green binder to the attorney and they'll figure it out. Because, that's the nice thing about having a trust and an estate plan, in that you don't have to worry about it if something tragic were to happen. It's kind of already laid out and the steps to move forward.
Yeah, it's important to know who people can go to and talk to if something happens to you. So I always encourage clients to share with me who their contacts are. So if I find out something happens to them, I can reach out to them. But also I encourage them to inform their people to know who I am as their attorney, so they know where to go when they find out something happens to them as well. And having the documents in place by an experienced attorney is helpful. And it's not always a one and done thing. Sometimes over the years things need to be revised, reviewed, updated. So I don't like to give clients the impression that once they sign it, never look at it again.
If you move, if you add family members, divorces, marriages, kids, grandkids, that all changes everything, right?
It can change what they might want to see happen with their estates for sure. So I always encourage them to let me know if circumstances change, but it is important to have those documents in place, whether it's the big green binder or another color, and know that things are taken care of and provided for.
Awesome. Well, I hope all this information helped you about homesteads and getting your estate planning needs started. Obviously, reach out to Taylor and his team if you have any questions, and I really appreciate him coming and explaining some of this information to us.
No, Beau, I appreciate you having me on.
Awesome.
My pleasure.
Thank you for watching my video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.